Hello, um, I'm Dominexus, and I'm the founding member of Mapmaker's Bootcamp. That is a map making team intended for teaching, uh, well, everyone really, about the art of map making. Anyone can join, even if they have no skill whatsoever. And uh, there's a bunch of people, various skill levels, ranging from no skill at all to like just absolute masters at the craft. And the people who have the people who have more experience uh, give dedicated assistance and tutor the people with less experience one on one. And we help with their projects, and they can really just make all their dream maps come to life, basically. And everyone here is welcome to join if they so choose. And we'll give them dedicated assistance to learning how to make maps. So we use a ranking system to indicate the skill of the individual members. That way we can tell how skilled someone is just at a glance. And we have a developed standard for determining how skilled someone is when they apply. And then as they develop their skills, uh, their rank will slowly go up. And they can apply for a promotion, and they'll get the next rank up if their skill is increased enough. And yeah, and they've learned a lot so far, the members who are already there. Several have already gone up a couple ranks or so, and it's really cool watching them all learn like that. And um, yeah, now the ranks are actually divided into three categories, since obviously map making is a very broad thing. You got the technical stuff, you got the builds, and you got resources. So the builds are the first thing we see in a map, and it's generally the easiest to get into, since you're mostly to get into, you mostly just place blocks around. But man, that is an art form, really mastering it. And we've trained people how to make better structures, more organically in terrain, how to use building tools like World Edit, Voxel Sniper, and so on. And often we'll work together with the builders to kind of refine their build, and we'll pinpoint little details. Sometimes they're fine details, with nuanced aspects of their build. Other times it's like a more general overarching thing that will correct them on. And and they all have like a lot of big ideas with their builds. Now, then there's the technical side. I would personally argue that this one's the most important, but that's just because I'm a technical guy myself. Uh, and we train people how to use data packs if they are currently using command blocks. We show them how to use all the various commands, how to optimize their code. Uh, and there's a lot of niche methods that we teach them as well. Since it's interesting, Minecraft commands are unlike other languages like Java or C++ and whatnot. Everything's kind of discoverable with those. You look out for the documentation and you can find out how to do anything. Minecraft commands are weird in that way, since if you want to, say, make a custom mob, like say you want to make like a giant worm that chases you around and it digs through the ground and everything, you can't uh you can't just retexture anything because nothing is remotely like that. And so if you wanted to make something like that, you have to kind of use these weird methods by taking an item, changing its model with a resource pack, and then putting that on the head of an armor stand. And then the armor stand is riding an area effect cloud. And then the area effect cloud gets teleported. And then that kind of simulates the movements of the worm. But then the area effect cloud has to do this weird thing called air toggling, where you you switch around one of its NBT tags every tick. And that kind of that resynchronizes it with the client. And that's a whole nother can of worms is server client desync. Yeah, that's another thing the tech guys got to deal with. And uh, and those kind of niche methods, like air toggling, for instance, I kind of recall one guy who actually discovered that on his own, and then it kind of spread word by mouth or word of mouth. And so uh, that's why we're here to teach them, is to show them all these things that would be really difficult for them to find out on their own because they're just so obscure. And that's the technical side of it. Now, then there's resources. So this involves models and textures. I would argue that this is the most difficult to get into, since unlike the other two, where you can just hop in the game and play some blocks, play some command blocks and redstone and you're on your way, with resources, you have to necessarily get into the file system, making a resource pack. And you have to learn like what all the file paths are and what all the folder names and the textures and stuff are, and how to format JSON as well. That's a big one. And but in general, custom resources can really spice up a map. It's very possible to make a really good map just using the vanilla assets. But once you have custom models and textures, that just really seals the deal. Especially if you have like custom audio, then that can make it even cooler. So those are the three broad categories of map making. There's also some extra roles that we'll give to people. Like if they are a skilled musician, we'll give them the musician role. That way, if someone in a map needs music, they'll ping the musician role and get some music going. There's a mathematician role. If someone is making a thing that they need to figure out, like this math equation, then they can ping the mathematician role and get the math experts in there. And there's various roles for as like subsets of the categories as well. Because if you have a builder, they could master at organics, structures, terrain, etc. Maybe not all of them, but maybe just some of them. Like in terms of my building skill, I'm pretty good with structures and at terrain. Not very good at organics though. And so I have the structure role. And so if someone needs help building a structure, they'll ping me. But if someone needs terrain, someone else will get pinged because I'm no good with terrain. Then the technical roles, um there's if you're good with an external language. Because a lot of times with your functions, you can make these really complex constructs like function trees, for instance. That it's like a function that runs another function, maybe like 10 others or so, but only under certain conditions and maybe at an offset in space. And doing that, you can basically run a command somewhere in a very large space only by running a couple commands. Often those can get very, very large in terms of how many files there are. And so generating those with an external script, like if it's written in Python or Java or something, would be good for that. And so if someone's good with Python or Java or any other language, and then they can fit it into Minecraft, then they would get the external languages role. There's also one for shaders. Shaders, for those who don't understand how they work, it's like a dark magic. It's like you don't even know how on earth it does what it does. But it's actually really easy to get into since it's just a couple of JSON files and JLSL. And JLSL is very similar to C in terms of how it's structured. And so there's only a few concepts to learn there. And then with resources, that one's divided into models, textures, and animations. Since someone can be really good at models, I'd say I'm pretty decent at models. But then textures. I'm not very good with textures. My colleagues uh, can confirm that. And then animations as well. The way I do animations is different from everybody else since I usually take a bunch of sine waves and other mathematical constructs and plug it in. I kind of bend the numbers to my will, basically. But others usually they use the block bench interface, and often they use animated Java or even Object MC sometimes. So those are the subcategories of each of the three. Now, as per the name, Mapmaker's Bootcamp, it kind of has like a general military theme to it. The ranks are, well, they're basically military ranks. You go from private, which is the lowest rank, basically for those who haven't demonstrated any skill yet. Then we invite them into a voice chat and we show them some stuff, and we see what they can do. We give them pointers and so on. Then there's private first class. This is where it divides into the three different categories, because you can have private first class in one category, but not in another. You can have a higher rank in another category. Then there's corporal. I find that most of the map makers average around corporal most of the time, somewhere between corporal or the next rank up, sergeant. Corporal and sergeant is where the majority of map makers land, I find, since it's it's one of those uh it's one of those things. How do I describe this? It's like a lot of the map makers are kind of in a bubble almost. Like they're not connected to the larger community. And so that's another purpose of Map Makers Bootcamp, is to connect them to the greater community. And so if they're in this bubble, they don't exactly know when, like, the methodology that they're using could be improved. And so just from them learning on their own usually lands them somewhere between sergeant and corporal, somewhere between those two. Uh, but once someone really gets connected with the community and starts learning like all the sophisticated techniques that everybody uses, then that's when they really shine. And then they usually step up to the lieutenant rank. Now, that's when things get really cool. Like in terms of tech, the lieutenant tech stuff is like they start using algorithms and stuff instead of just kind of the janky mechanics that you'd otherwise see. And then the builders, they start using sophisticated techniques of art, and using like proper gradients and color palettes and everything. And then the resources guys, um their textures start looking really nice and all that. And then finally, to cap it all off, is the captain rank. This is the highest rank that is achievable through skill. There are other ranks above that, but they're for moderating the server, so they don't count. Yeah, and at the captain level, the captain builders, like, I don't even know how they can build such massive things, uh, that quickly. It's amazing what they can make. And the resources, like, there's a couple guys I would love to join that like give the captain rank to them instantly, just how good they are. Um, then and the tech side, the captain rank, uh, they use like a lot of sophisticated methods from computer science instead of just relying on MC function alone, basically. So that describes all the categories and the ranks and everything. And a lot of people have risen up the ranks over time, and I really love it when I see people get promoted, since they're so eager to as well. And that kind of gives them a drive to learn, is having uh, like that promotion up there. Like they strive to get up to the next level, and then we all celebrate when they go up the next level. Now, so far in the history of Mapmaker's Bootcamp, we've released 2 maps, and there's a lot more on the way, trust me. The 2 maps we've released, in fact, one of them is playable now, way over there in the Sticky Piston Arcade, Reef Race. That was the first one. It's a simple parkour map, uh, but the builds are really the selling point of that one. And it's on its way to Realms as well. Unfortunately, the Realms queue is kind of slow, so it takes a while. But generally, all the maps we make get submitted to Realms, and then people can get this Realms cape once they release two minigame maps, and um, and that's also a big driving force for teaching people map making, because it's like a symbol that they did it, that they have what it takes to to make something really cool, and we want to help them get to that point and perfect their skills. Now, if anyone watching has a lot of experience and they want to teach other people how to make maps, if you've been involved with map making, uh, I would definitely consider joining. Or if you want to learn how to make maps, even if you've never made one before, then also consider joining. Really, if you just like maps in general, consider joining. And um, we're active every day, uh, always answering people's questions, and I think that's it, pretty much. Um, if anyone has any questions, I'm open to answering them. My pleasure. Yes, I'd love to. Okay, so the way credit is handled, so whoever like has the idea for the map, they propose the idea, and then the higher ups, we review the idea, and usually it's kind of rough at first, and so we have to kind of restructure it a little bit, give them some tips here and there, and then we hand it off to them, and we set them up with a channel and everything, and then they get to work, and then we kind of orchestrate, or we organize, like we bring people in, like, hey, this map needs this specific thing, like this needs work on the tech, or say the builds need work done, and so we bring those people in, and we make sure that whoever is the project lead has full control over the map. And so normally we publish the maps as a group, but the project leads have full control over it. And so if they want, they can choose to publish it on their own, under their own name, not publish it at all if that's their thing, host it on a server, anything they want, as long as it's okay with all the people who helped them. You see, that's the big thing. And when it comes to realms, it's the same thing. Whoever made it, they get credit for it, but they still have full control over what goes into it. So yeah, we like to we're hands off in terms of like the more executive decisions, and we help with the design elements. That's what we do. Yeah. No, you can stay there, you can chill, take a break if you want. You can, work like a horse if you want to. uh, it's a very casual environment, I would say. There's no deadlines. There's no, no one's gotten kicked off because they haven't, done enough. Basically, sometimes if like a map starts to stagnate and it needs work like as soon as possible and people are moving on, then we'll bring in another contributor, but you can always rejoin afterwards. And so there's no concept there of removing someone if they're not doing enough. It's a system of contribute as much as you like.